You don't need thousands of dollars to get started. If you just started with $10 a week, $100 a week, $50 a week, whatever you can do, the key is get started because it can compound so much faster than you even realize. And just those small amounts is really such a huge shift on being able to make your money work for you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rooted, where we are rooted in truth, growing in freedom, and prospering in life.
We are your hosts, Josie and Simone, and today we are here with Rachel, who is the creator of Yield and Grace, a YouTube channel designed to make investing approachable, stylish, and empowering, especially for women who want to take control of their money and build lasting wealth. She shares what she has learned about high-yield ETFs, dividends, and passive income in a way that feels less scary and teaches people how to build wealth with confidence.
Rachel, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We are so excited to dive into this conversation, and it's just been really cool to learn from you and your YouTube videos that you've been putting out. It's crazy. You've only been producing videos for about a month, and your followers are just skyrocketing, which is insane. So thank you for being such a light. Here on this podcast, for those of you listening that might be new, we're all committed to being rooted in truth, growing in freedom, and prospering in life. And that applies to all areas of life. And building strong financial roots is a key part of having a prosperous life and being able to have fruit that is able to benefit people and invest in others. And so we're just so excited to dive in, Rachel. Could you kind of just share a little bit about your background and what got you interested in investing and finding financial freedom?
First, I just want to say thank you both so much for having me. You two are just so beautiful, not only on the outside, but on the inside as well. And you both just radiate such a bright light. So I'm truly so honored to be here. So thank you so much. But a little bit about myself. So right after high school, I didn't go to college. Both my parents never went to college, so I just went right into working for my family's small business. So my parents and I are super close. We work together every single day, so that's really nice that we have a super close-knit family unit. And my dad was the one who kind of opened the door of investing for me. And he just taught me the importance of having your money work for you rather than just spending it and never seeing it again. So that was such a cool concept to me. I got originally started with traditional dividend stocks that would pay every quarter. And I just love the thought of getting paid simply for holding shares, even if it was going to take 10 plus years to actually make a difference in my life. But I'm so blessed because my dad is my mentor and my inspiration. And what he learns, he relays to my mom and I. So we kind of do everything together, and investing is just another one of those things that we get to do together. So about a year ago, I really got started on my investing journey. And I felt that I had, for a while, such a calling to share that journey. But I was afraid, I'm going to be so honest with you. And I tried to shush it. I'm like, no. And I just felt God saying, I really want you to share. And eventually, about a month ago, I couldn't ignore it anymore. And that's when I decided to start my YouTube channel.
That is amazing. Yeah, we've been looking over some of your content, and honestly, I have learned so much about investing already. And so I just really appreciate what you are doing with your gifts and talents. And I'm excited that you kind of got over that fear and decided to just put it out there, because that was something that Josie and I were also scared of when starting this podcast. We were like, okay, well, what if no one cares and what if no one listens? But we also just kind of felt that nudge from God. So yeah, I'm really proud of you, and that's really cool.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me.
I really like how you are articulating the importance of making money work for you. And I was a business major in college. Now I'm doing a communications role. But what first got me interested in business was reading the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And
Yes.
I had never thought of money that way. Money was always a scary thing for me. It was something like, I don't understand how bills work. Like, everything about money was scary. Reading that book helped me understand. I loved how they said the rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. And looking at how, a lot of times people who are maybe in a not as great financial state, looking at, okay, how are you using money? What's your view of money? And we read another book, The Psychology of Money, and it articulated that wealth is not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And it's
Exactly.
just such an interesting way to redefine what wealth is. It's not about the things you own, it's about how much you are actually keeping, how much you're holding. So I would love for you to kind of share. You talk a lot about kind of redefining the narrative around money and how understanding a different view of money helped you find freedom. Could you kind of articulate that a little further?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny that you brought up the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, because that played such a crucial role in, like you said, my mindset with money. And I felt this calling to share for especially beginners and women because I feel investing is such a male dominated space and it can feel so overwhelming, especially if you don't know anything about it. And I really understood that well when I tried talking to my friends about it. And they were like, Rachel, we have no clue what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, this is definitely something that I need to share with more people so that people, like you said, can start to change their mindset and have their money work for them. Because at one point, in my early 20s, I was a shopaholic and I loved to shop and spend my money. But at a certain point, you realize, okay, that's going to lead me down a path that I'm going to have nothing to show for it except for 400 pairs of shoes where I need my money to work for me so that I have something at the end of the day. In 5 to 10 years, I don't have 400 pairs of shoes. My money has made me money over and over as the years went on. So I think reframing your mindset is so important. Like you said, reading those books to get a head start on your mindset and then questioning every dollar you spend, like, do I really need this or is this a want? And can I instead turn this money to help me and make me more money and get to a longer term goal?
I like how you mentioned just addressing the fear of money at the start of that. And I know, especially for women, it is super easy to just kind of ignore it and say, oh, that's too scary. I just want to marry rich. Let's just leave that up to the men. But I've I've heard you say in several of your videos that you want to know how to be able to provide for yourself and you want to know how to figure that out. And there could be maybe some critique surrounding that because there are some people who would say, no, but the male should be in charge of that. So what is your take on that and why do you feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good question and something that I feel so strongly about. I feel that for me, making my own money and having knowledge on making my own money is something that no one could ever take away from me. Just like when you go to school and what you learn from school, no one can ever take that away from you. And I think it's so important that, like you said, so many times women rely on men to be in control of the finances, which is great. I have no problem with that. But I do think that women should be more well informed and educated to be able to make their own means of income so that, God forbid, anything were to happen in their life, it doesn't completely turn their world upside down. I am such a big proponent for women being able to make their own money and empower each other and just have something that no one can ever take away from them.
I really like how you articulated that. Yeah, it's great to have a husband that maybe can handle that. But yeah, what if something happens to them? What if you're not married? What if you are single most of your life? And being able to have the freedom to know, hey, I'm not going to be in bondage simply because I don't understand money and I don't understand how it
Exactly.
works. So I think that is such a key thing to point out. And another thing too that I think that you've done a really good job of talking through is the importance of intergenerational wealth and understanding that a lot of times when it comes to finances, people are born into a certain sphere, socioeconomic status, and they're either dealing with the abundance that has come with that life or they're dealing with debt that's piled up from generation to generation. And so I'd love for you to kind of speak on what the importance is of intergenerational wealth and how you can start to make decisions that will impact your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids.
Absolutely. That's such another great question, and why my dad and I started the series called Generations of Wealth so that you can have two generations and we could be talking about the impact that it has on both of us and the future generations to come. But I think it's so important to be able to teach your children about money and just the small mindset changes like we just talked about have such a lasting effect on generations, like you said, that you're not having the generations to come have debt, you're having them set up for success with a mindset shift. And then you're able to teach your kids and their kids and their kids the power of investing and having their money work for them. Like you said, Rich Dad Poor Dad is such a good example of that too, where you have two extremes where you can really see how that unfolds and how it changes the trajectory of someone's life. It's so important to, when I have children, teach them the importance of having their money work for them, and those small mindset changes and those daily habits compound and set them up for a future of success and not failure.
When would you say is a good time frame for someone to start talking about investing or set up a Roth IRA or anything of that sort? When is the time for that?
I think the sooner the better. The sooner you can get started, the better. And I always tell my friends, you don't need thousands of dollars to get started. If you just started with $10 a week, $100 a week, $50 a week, whatever you can do, the key is get started because it can compound so much faster than you even realize. And getting over that fear of the unknowns of the market and investing and just putting your best foot forward, getting started, and just those small amounts is really such a huge shift on being able to make your money work for you.
Could you kind of share a little bit about your specific investing strategy and why that works for you and what strategies you might recommend for other people? Because obviously everyone's in a different spot, so I'd be curious to hear that.
Yes. So a little over a year ago, my dad found these stocks that are called high yield ETFs, and they are exchange traded funds and they follow the underlying ticker. So, for example, TSLY follows Tesla. So, when we found these, we saw the distributions. They were paying like once a month at this point, and they were paying over $1 a month. So for me, I loved quarterly dividend stocks where I was getting paid like 20 cents a quarter. So when I saw that these distributions were over $1 a month, a light bulb went off in my mind. And I just thought, oh my goodness, how is this real? Like, how could this? It seems too good to be true at first. So as I kept investing with my parents, we started seeing it just compound and snowball and see how it unfolded. And that just completely changed our life. And I really try to invest in the ETFs with underlines that I truly believe in. I don't believe in just throwing money at anything. Really, my core strategy is to invest in the companies that I believe will be here long term and be able to get paid along the way. So that's really my core investing strategy right now is the high yield ETFs because now I'm getting paid daily. So I'm able to compound my money so much faster.
For someone who doesn't know what companies would be good to invest in and which ones are bad, where does the research even start for them? What should they be looking into?
So I always say, and my dad says too, start with companies that you use. So for example, I love Amazon. I get packages at my door.
Amazon
So
Prime days
often.
are amazing.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
I was actually right
Exactly.
before this podcast just unboxing a little walking treadmill for my desk that I got from
Oh,
Amazon
that's
Prime days. It was
awesome.
like 50% off. So yeah,
Wow, that's
Amazon
That's
Amazon
awesome.
is the way to
That
go.
is so awesome. Exactly. So I love Amazon. So I want the ETF that correlates with Amazon. Or, you could buy Amazon stock. I always say my form of investing is not the end all be all or what I'm encouraging anyone to do. I'm just encouraging them to just get started on investing, whether that is the ETFs, regular dividend stocks, or the actual stock of Amazon, Google, whatever it is. But I always try to preach along with my dad and invest in the companies that you know, that you use, that you love, that you think are going to be here in the long term.
How do you kind of help, parents that are listening and like, oh, I want my kids to start understanding investing a little bit. How do you recommend speaking to kids and kind of getting them excited about the idea of investing?
Absolutely. That is another great question. So, my dad really started to plant little seeds with me. For example, when we would go to Disney, he would say, "Oh, I own some Disney." And at first I'd be like, "What does that even mean? That sounds crazy." And then he would explain it to me and I'd be like, "Wow, that is so cool." So I think making those connections on having your kids want to learn more and know what you're talking about, I think that's so cool. And making those connections with things that they like. And for example, like Bluey, my nephew loves Bluey. He's obsessed with Bluey. So having that connection to Disney, and if they love sports, that connection to Nike, and just making it fun and lighthearted. I think that's another thing that worked so well with my dad and I, is that we always had such a good relationship, and he always made everything feel fun and made it feel like we were a team doing it together. So I think that's super important. He always was so positive and encouraging, no matter what avenue I decided to take in investing, and just making it be something that's fun for the whole family.
Yeah, I remember our dad when he was first trying to teach us what investing is. He had some stocks of Chipotle, and
This is exactly what I was thinking in my head. The same story.
we were in Chipotle, like that was our favorite restaurant to go to. And I remember dad was trying to explain what stocks were, and he's like, "Yeah, so like I like own the door of Chipotle, basically." And
Yeah, and I would
for
like tell
a
my
couple
friends my
years,
dad
I
owns
literally-
this door.
yeah, I was like, "Oh yeah, the Chipotle in Arden Hills, he owns the door of."
Yeah.
And
That's
it
so
took me a while to
cute.
figure it out for real, but it is good. It helps you kind of understand when it's this abstract thing that you can't really tangibly see. And speaking of which, market volatility is something that's unexpected. You can't always predict it. How do you navigate that? And is there any advice you have for people who might panic when that happens and, oh, I got to quick take my money out?
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad always said, from the time I got started in investing, when the market pulls back and people are panicking, that is your best opportunity to get in and buy as much as you can, as quickly as you can, because the market's eventually going to recover and it's going to go even higher. So I think it's so important, like I was talking about before, having that core foundation of your mindset, because if you invest in companies that you believe in, then when the market pulls back, you're okay, because you know, okay, I still believe that this company is going to be around in the future. So you just see it as more of a buying opportunity rather than a panic and sell. So I just think it's so important to stay rational and keep a good head on your shoulders and be reminded of what your long-term goal is. Because like you said, nothing's guaranteed in the market. Everything in life is a risk. So you just have to stick to your convictions and what you believe in long-term.
I want to talk a little bit about retirement funds. So, as many people know, you have the 401k option, the Roth IRA. What is your opinion on those in general? And at what point in life should people start thinking about their retirement?
Yeah, so I think those are fantastic funds. I personally do not have one. I just have a regular individual cash account. But I do think that those are great. The reason why I do not have it is because I want to be able to take my money out, whereas those you have to be a certain age before you can withdraw your money. So for me, I'm trying to compound my income to the point where that's my sole income and I don't have to go work a job. That is just what's paying me. And I could be a stay-at-home mom eventually with my kids. So those are fantastic and great if you don't have to withdraw the money. But for me right now, I want to be able to take out money. So
I'm really curious. We've talked mainly about stocks and those kind of investments. Could you kind of share your perspective on crypto and Bitcoin?
yes. Oh, I love, love, love Bitcoin. I'm a huge Bitcoin girly. And I have a very personal story with Bitcoin. So in 2013, my brother, I have three older brothers, he came to my mom and Bitcoin was at $500. And he had bought Bitcoin and he said to my mom, "Mom, I think this is going to be huge and we should start mining it in the basement." And my mom is the type of mom that anything her kids say, she's good with it. She's like, "I'm on board. Let's do it," even if it sounds insane. So, which is fantastic, but and maybe sometimes a little crazy, but my brother bought Bitcoin at $500. He was always such a huge Bitcoin maxi. I, at that time, was too consumed in being in high school and just thinking about what my next Starbucks drink was going to be. So I couldn't care less about what
I
he
love
was
that.
saying about Bitcoin. I'm like, Bitcoin, who cares about that? So it wasn't actually until over a year ago when I started investing in these high yield ETFs. One of them is Misty, which follows MicroStrategy, and Michael Saylor is the head of MicroStrategy, and they're pretty much like a bank of Bitcoin. They have lots of Bitcoin, and that's when I really started doing a lot of research into Bitcoin. And there is always nothing worse than going back to your brother and saying, you were right, and him saying, I told you so. So I
Yeah.
wanted to bite my tongue a little bit on that one, but I had to admit that he was right all along. And just being able to do my own research on Bitcoin just confirmed everything that he had said for so long. So we are a huge Bitcoin family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Josie and I, and also our family, our dad kind of got us into like investing as well, but we are huge Bitcoin fans too. And we use an app called Strike. Have you ever heard of Strike?
Yes, I actually have daily buys of Bitcoin on
Okay,
Strike.
yeah, that's awesome. So that's what we use. But I'd love to know, what about Bitcoin do you love? Because a lot of people are probably like, okay, great, people talk about it, but can I trust it? Why is it better than just having money in the bank?
Yeah, so I think that when I think back to how my mom had such a positive reaction to my brother at that time was a little shocking to me because it was not like today's world where you have so much information about Bitcoin
Hmm.
now. She really knew nothing. And I think when my brother went to go buy his purchase of Bitcoin, even the bank was like, are you sure? This kind of seems like a scam. My brother's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm sure. So I just think that with Bitcoin, it's finite, whereas the dollar, they just keep printing it and printing it and printing it, and it's losing value, where Bitcoin will never lose its value. It's instead actually going to continue to go up in value. And it's literally gold, which is just, it's so exciting when you really understand the principles of Bitcoin. When you read the white paper, I started reading Super Cycle. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book,
Mm-mm.
but it's a great Bitcoin book. I highly recommend it. And in the middle of reading it, I just like was filled with tears. And I told my boyfriend, I'm like, Kenneth, we don't have enough Bitcoin. We're not Bitcoin maxis enough. Like, this is just so exciting because I just think it's going to keep going up and up and up in value. And it's such, uh, it's amazing. Whereas everything else in our world now with our dollars just going down.
Hmm.
I think one of the things that really kind of stood out to me when I was trying to figure out if I wanted to get into Bitcoin is the fact that ultimately the dollar is just a store of value. It only has value
Exactly.
so long as we decide it has value. It's just like back in the
Exactly.
day, shells were the things that had value and people could trade those. Now you're just going to use it as a collection. You're not going to use it to buy a pizza or anything. And the more and more that Bitcoin becomes popular, the more and more you start to see that all of these big like Tesla, Amazon, they're starting to recognize Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And when you have all of the big time investors investing in Bitcoin, that has to mean something. I mean, as long as people start seeing it as the most common form of currency, then it's just going to keep rising in value. So that is something. And like you said, the fact that it's finite, that we're not going to keep printing more Bitcoin. There's a set number of Bitcoin, and once once those are used up, then
Yeah.
you're stuck with that. Like those are the people that have Bitcoin. So I think that's super great insight. We did have an episode with Natalie Brunell a while ago. So any of our listeners that want to hear more about Bitcoin in particular should definitely go and listen to that episode. But I do want to ask you, obviously your name is Yielding Grace. You're very passionate about your faith as well. And I'm just curious, what role does your faith play in investing, and what does the Bible say about investing?
Yeah. So my faith is the number one most important thing in my life. And I wanted to start this to not only share my journey of investing, but also glorify God at the same time, because I don't want to do anything in my life if I'm not able to glorify God while I'm doing it.
Amen.
And I really feel that this walk is getting me so much closer to Him. And it's making me just truly surrender to Him and rely on Him for just everything. I think when you put yourself out there, it could be very scary. And you get both sides of the coin. You get really amazing responses, but you also get the not so nice responses
Yeah.
where in those moments, I have to lean on Him that much more and truly be rooted in my truth in what He says about me and not what anyone else says about me. So I am just trying to, like I said, glorify God the whole way that I'm doing this journey and just stay grounded with Him. I have Bible study nights on Wednesdays. I go to a young adult service on Thursday, and I have church on Sunday. So I never want to get too busy where that interrupts my schedule of spending time with Him, because that's just so important to me. But I actually had a comment this past weekend on one of my videos where someone said, "How can you claim to be a Christian when you are chasing money and putting money before God?"
Mm.
And that was really hard for me to look at because they're attacking my character.
Mhm.
So I want to have it just so clear that it's what your heart is, and God knows your heart. God is number one for me and not money. He could take it all away tomorrow, and I would still be okay as long as I had my relationship with Him. So I think that God uses different tools to help glorify Him, and I believe that He is allowing me and my investing journey to glorify Him. And if that's what it takes, if I have to go through the fire, that's okay, because I know He's right there beside me.
Well, I think that investing is biblical too. And I think of Matthew 25 with the parable with the servants who their master gave them each some money, and they all left, and the first two invested it and came back with more money. And he said, "You're a good and faithful servant. Since you were trusted with little, I will trust you with more." And then the last servant, he buried it because he was afraid of losing it. And he came back, and the master was like, "What were you doing? Like, why didn't you use what I gave you and multiply it?" And so I think that stewardship and investing and multiplying not only the finances you have, but the gifts you have is biblical. It's what God calls us to. He wants us to use what He's given us. And I just think it's so cool that you're not only using the finances that He's given you, but you're also using the gifts of sharing what you've learned. So thank you so much for being such a great example.
Thank you.
A question that I also thought of as we were just talking about what the Bible says is, since a lot of income can now come from investments and dividends, but then that also can vary a lot, how do you figure out what to give or what to tithe from your investment earnings?
That is such a good question. It's actually something that I was thinking about today in church earlier. So
Oh,
I
that's
can't believe
great.
that
That's
you
awesome.
just brought this up. I think God is really saying, "Hello, I'm trying to tell you something." But actually, our church is doing a collection all about that right now. It's called To Infinity and Beyond, where they talk about tithing and they talk about, giving back to or giving to God because everything is His. But that tithing of that 10% is super important. And like you said, investments can change. The thing that I love about my investments is that they're weekly. So that is able to help me break down that 10% on what I get paid every week so that I am able to give back. And another thing that bothered me so much about that comment on YouTube is because you don't know what I'm doing with this money. I am helping at my church. I am giving back. I am sponsoring children. Like, that is just, you're assuming something about someone that you don't even know.
Right,
So I think it's so important to tithe and give back to your church and glorify God. And the way that my investments are structured helps me to be able to do that very easily.
That is really good insight, because I was curious about that too. Because yeah, it's hard to quantify that necessarily. I'm curious. Just obviously, you're yielding grace. This started a month ago, so I'm kind of curious what else is going on in your life outside of your yielding grace.
Yeah, so I have a boyfriend who we've been together for 6 years, and
Wow.
I think we're gonna be getting engaged soon.
Okay.
That's some
That's
tea.
exciting. That's so fun.
Yes, and then I have a dog who is my world. Her name is Elsa. She's 9.5, so she is kind of my whole world with my boyfriend. And then my parents and my brother live very close, so we all moved from New Jersey to Florida about 5 years ago. So we live in Florida now, and we're just very happy. I still work with my parents. We still have our small business. So it's nice that we're able to be together every day and share our investment journeys. Because also too, my dad's investment journey is very different than mine. He invests in different things. So that's why I felt it was so important for us to do the generations of wealth where we can talk about our different investing styles, where my mom is like a little bit of a mix of both of ours. So that's nice that every day when we see each other at work, we can kind of not only work, but talk about our strategies and things like that.
Yeah, that is so fun. How do you help people think, not just about getting ahead, about climbing up the ladder, but also about giving back, leaving a legacy, or building something that is bigger than yourself once you're gone? And I know we talked a little bit about the generational impact, but is there anything else, any strategies or advice you have for people to give back besides tithing and the generational impact?
I think that you should give back by educating other people who know nothing about anything that you do, and if you feel that something that you're doing can help benefit others, you should share that. Something that I felt God put on my heart in order for me to share was that I felt He kept telling me, Rachel, there's only one of you out there, and no one else has your perspective. And that's your superpower. You need to share that. And I feel everyone should share their perspective because that's something that no one else has. And you are truly one of one. And that's just so important to realize. And you should share whatever your perspective, whatever is your passions with others.
And obviously, you are doing just that right now through your platform and through your YouTube channel. Is there something that you want your audience specifically to gain from you in the next 1 to 3 years? What's one thing that you would hope they gain from listening to your videos?
I hope that they feel more comfortable, even just getting started in investing. And I hope that they know that the whole message behind yielding grace is that God is glorified, number one, through
Mm,
it all.
yeah, that's good.
As you go forward, obviously you have your YouTube channel, you're on X, all those platforms. Where do you kind of see this growing to? Do you see yourself speaking or whatnot? Like, where do you see Yielding Grace going to 10 years from now? I know it's a really broad question, but
That's a good question. And it's so funny that you asked that because I'm a pretty shy person. So public speaking to me is like my worst nightmare. But I feel that that is definitely a possibility of going down this path. I really think that God is pushing me out of my comfort zone. And I think that He is forcing me to grow more than ever. Even just, sharing my story. I'm so shy. I never wanted to, share my portfolio or do anything like that. So I just think in every aspect, He's pushing me totally out of my comfort zone. But I'm thinking maybe have a podcast like you guys are doing
Yeah,
where
that'd be
I could
great.
talk about, yeah, investing and like you said, possibly speaking events. So at this point, even though I'm shy and I'm being pushed out of my comfort zone, I just totally have to surrender to whatever God feels is best for me and what He wants me to do on this journey. I just have to go with the flow and roll with the punches.
That's great.
I think that's beautiful. And
Yeah.
I know Simone and I, that was the number one thing that was holding us back from doing this podcast is fear of, I don't know, that's like not something we've ever done before. It's out of our comfort zone. What are people going to think? And I just love how you really are authentic on your videos. Your last video I watched of you, you literally laid out your entire portfolio and showed us dollars and cents what you're making from your investments. Like that is not normal. People don't do that, but it helps people to see for real what's possible with investing. And people want authentic, they want real. And I'm just curious, what advice do you have for people who they might have an idea of like, oh, I think I have this gift to share with the world. I think that God's calling me to this, but fear is holding them back and they don't know how to jump over that hurdle and be real and be authentic. What advice do you have for someone who maybe is on the edge of that fence and needs to just take a leap?
Yeah, if I could be an example of just do it and just trust in God and He will walk you through it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I promise you that truly. And that, like I said, you are one of one. No one else has your perspective, and that's your superpower. You should absolutely share it with the world because it's so valuable. And we all have such value within us. And as long as we are rooted in our truth and what God says about us, then everything else doesn't matter.
That's beautiful. I love that. We would love to ask you the final question of the podcast, which we ask all of our guests, which is, what is one piece of truth that you would encourage our listeners to be rooted in?
What God says about you and nothing else. That is just the most important thing. Don't listen to whatever the world has to say about you, because God loves you so much and He thinks that you are perfect and amazing. And you were perfectly crafted by the creator of the universe. And that's what we truly have to remember on a daily basis when life gets hard, because it's going to get hard. You're going to go through the fire. Just remember that truth and who God says you are.
That's so good. Thank you so much.
Amen.
We just appreciate all of your wisdom and just the fact that you're taking this leap to talk about financial freedom, to talk about investing, how to help people, how to help women specifically get started with that. And I would just love for you to talk a little bit about people, if they're looking to learn more from you, what type of resources can they go to? What's your YouTube channel? All of that so that people can check you out after this episode.
Yeah, so I try to post at least 2 videos a week on my YouTube channel, which is Yielding Grace. And I also post daily on X, which is also, my handle is Yielding Grace, where X is more of a platform where I'm able to share, I feel, more on a consistent basis, where YouTube, I have to take the time to make the videos and it takes a little longer, where X, I feel I'm a lot more active on. But YouTube is better content, I feel, because it's really thought out and fully crafted. So, but both YouTube and X.
Perfect. And we will link those below so that you guys can check those out. Thank you so much, Rachel, just for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to be on this podcast and just share your wisdom and insight with us.
Thank you for having me. You guys were the best.